What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Canadian Football Fantasy Fix for the Division Finals of the 2021 CFL Playoffs. I'm Ryan Coop here with your running back preview this time around, taking a look at all of the running back options between the four teams playing this weekend. Looking for a shot to move on to the Grey Cup the following week. Exciting times in the CFL, exciting times for CFL Fantasy. And we're here to talk through the running back options today. If you missed it, go back, check out my quarterback preview. That's already out on the channel. And stay tuned later this week as well. I will have your wide receiver and defense previews. And on Saturday, I will have a depth chart update for both the games this weekend for all four teams. Up to get you set for locking in your lineups. So let's dive right in and take a look at the running backs. And this is a week where I'm having a tough time with setting a lineup. I think there's a lot of potential good plays, especially at the running back position, but where there's very few, among potential starters or 1A, 1B options, where there's very few of them that I think are a stay completely away from. But there's none that I'm absolutely locking in. You see a lot of yellow lights here on the board. Let's go top down price-wise and walk you through all of them. Andrew Harris appears back on the board for the first time in a couple of weeks because he has started practicing. I think he was limited the second day of practice this week, but was a full participant the first day with the first team offense. So we could see Harris back for the Bombers. What a boost that would be. Going into the West Final. $8,075 is his price. To get what you need for what I consider a full value week, which is 2.5 points per $1,000, you need 20.2 points out of Andrew Harris. On the season, he's averaged 15.6 in the 7 games he's played. The past couple of games for him, he had an 11.3, a big 30.4, and then an 11.4. So 15.6 average is not bad. It's top certainly among the running back options this week. But I think that's skewed a little by that 30-point game. Andrew Harris, we'd always know he's fired up to play in big games. And I could see him having a good day if he gets into the lineup. Again, check those depth charts. Against the Riders, who, have been one of the better teams in the league against the run this season. But there seems to, in the recent weeks, been a little bit of an opportunity to run the ball against them. We saw Walter Fletcher do that with the Elks a couple of games. We saw Kadeem Carey have a big game against the Riders last week for Calgary. So I think Winnipeg running backs have potential this week. My concern here is, Harris comes back in, is how truly healthy is he? Does he end up playing the full game? Do they put Brady Oliveira in the rotation to give him a bit of a rest? If he plays the full game, I love the potential of a 20-point week out of Harris. But it's also tough if he's not getting the touchdowns and he's not getting the receptions. And he's had very few receptions in the games he's played this year. And, the touchdowns haven't been flowing as much as they normally are either. So, could be a good play, could not. Could be a bit disappointment at that price level, which is why I have him as a yellow light. Then we get into Don Jackson at $7,992. 20 points even is what you need for your full value week out of Don Jackson. And he's had himself a pretty good 4-week stretch as of late since taking over the starting job in Hamilton. 18, 17.6, 17.2, and 14.1 in his last 4 games. He's gotten in there. He's gotten the touchdowns. He's gotten involved in the passing game. That's what you like to see from your running back. The matchup with Toronto is the only reason this is a yellow light. I think Jackson is one of the best plays there is at running back, pure talent-wise, and based on usage this week. But there is concern with the matchup against Toronto because at times they have managed to shut the run down pretty well, and against Hamilton as well. Last 4 games, running backs against Toronto have put up a ceiling of 15.5 points. So, a little bit concerned on the matchup for Don Jackson, and I still have such a hard time buying in on a Hamilton running back, I'll be honest, just because they have a couple of them. They have Poppy White comes in and takes some carries. Braylon Addison's in, maybe he does, Tim White does, right? Those are all carries that are being taken away from Don Jackson. So there is a bit of concern there for me, but I think he is one of the strongest plays out of any of the options this week. William Powell of the Saskatchewan Roughriders at $7,703. You are looking for 19.3 out of him. He's averaging 12.8 on the season. He's a yellow light option to me just because, first of all, he is facing a tough Bombers defense who has gotten much better against the run down the stretch of the season ever since Steven Richardson and Kyrie Wilson got back into the lineup for Winnipeg. So the matchup is a little tougher than it was earlier this year. Powell has played some decent ball as of late, though, I think, in the games where he's gotten the proper usage. And we saw that last week against Calgary, where he was given, I think his highest rep count of the entire season. He had like 18 carries and 7 catches, was their most targeted receiver. Put up 19.8 points, which is what you like to see. If the Riders can stick to the game plan of using William Powell properly, I think this is a good play. I think he is a guy that, the Bombers are going to bring the heat on Cody Fajardo, and he's going to have to dump the ball off quickly like he did last week, and that really paid off with William Powell. So, especially if the passing game is going to be tough, the Bombers, I think, are better pass defense than they are run defense. I like the matchup here for Powell. I am still concerned, as I've said every week this year, what is his usage level going to be? They started out strong with him in the first half against Calgary and then just kind of abandoned him at times in the second half. And I want to see him full 60-minute game out of the usage of their star running back in Saskatchewan. I think that's going to be key to a win here if they are going to pick one up against the Bombers. So I like Powell if he gets the usage. I am a little hesitant that he does get what he needs, though, but certainly also have him as one of the top plays at running back this week. Then we get into Brady Oliveira of the Bombers, $5,976, 14.9 points is what you're looking for. He's only a consideration for me if he's a starter. If he's in as a backup, I don't think he's hitting you a 15-point week. If Andrew Harris is ready to go, let me be clear on that one. He does have a 5.5 point average across 13 games this year. That one, you got to take that with a grain of salt because that includes, a number of weeks where he was a backup. But he hasn't exactly, put up massive numbers in the games he's played. His highest total on the year is 15.7. The past 2 games, he put up 6.7, 8.7 for them in those. He had a couple around 12 to 14. So could hover if he's a starter close to his full value play. I don't think he's necessarily going to break you a 20, 30-point game, but he could get you a 15-point week potentially. DJ Foster of the Toronto Argonauts presumably should be the starting running back this week. John White is still on the 6-game injured list. I think he left that game against Ottawa a couple weeks before the end of the season. So DJ Foster should get the start. 14.5 points is his 2.5 point per $1,000 threshold. And he's averaged 12.4 a game on the season. This is one of the better value plays I think there is at the running back position. And he gets a lot of strong value through his involvement as a receiver, through his touchdowns. If you were to look at Foster's breakdown of points through the air versus points on the ground, I would bet that the majority of his points come through the air. He doesn't get a ton of carries. He doesn't put up a ton of rushing yards necessarily, but those receptions that count for a point plus yardage, those touchdowns that count for 6, those are huge for a fantasy running back. And I think there is a decent play there if you're looking to save some money at this position. Bit of a worry about the matchup with Hamilton. We saw what they did last week against William Stanback, best running back in the league, completely shut him down in that East Division semifinal. Hamilton, has been really strong a lot of weeks this year against the run. They are one of the better teams in that category. And we'll see with Foster as well. Does AJ Ouellette, for example, as a backup, come in and play a little bit in a 2-back system? Good value play potentially, but I wouldn't bank on a massive week from Foster either. Kind of like what I was saying from Oliveira. Sean Thomas Erlington is one of the options I think you should stay away from. Don Jackson should be the starter again at running back, should get the bulk of the reps. I don't think STE gets enough to give you your 14.1 points you would like out of him. Jamal Morrow of the Riders, 37.87 price point, 9.5 points is the goal. He's averaging 7.1 on the year, and he had his best game of the year this past week. He will be handling returns, his primary role. He doesn't really get involved in the offense otherwise. 9.5 points is really kind of a hard total to bank on from a pure return man not named Devontae Dedmon, if I'm being honest here. But he did put up the big game last week. He had one return for a touchdown that counted, one return for a touchdown that probably should have counted, and 13.4 points is what he ended up with on the day. A couple big returns there. If there's a weak spot for the Bombers this year, it's on special teams. Not only their own kicking game, I've seen a number of big returns against Winnipeg this year, and if Morrow's on his game here in the playoffs, that could turn the tide greatly, and that could pay off for you. If you're really just looking to save money at the running back position, it may be worth the chance taking a shot at a guy that's not going to get a running back rep at all, but is going to be handling returns for the team. And then the final option I have listed here, Johnny Augustine of the Bombers. Red light for me. If Harris is in, Augustine's the third string. Even if he's the second string behind Brady Oliveira, I don't know if he gets in for enough plays to warrant putting in your lineup. Similar price, I would be a lot more comfortable with the floor of Jamal Morrow handling kick returns than I would with the play of Johnny Augustine this week against the Bombers. So that's kind of how I see things playing out at the running back position. Again, a lot of yellow lights this week. I think of the top end plays, I really like, if you're looking for an order on these ones, maybe I would go with, say, Don Jackson, William Powell, Andrew Harris. Middle price plays, I'd probably put DJ Foster ahead of Brady Oliveira. And then I think Jamal Morrow could be a cheap play as well. But there's very little, I think, discrepancy for me between those top three options in particular, Harris, Jackson, and Powell. I think any of them could be primed for a big day. So could depend on the shakeup of the rest of your roster. Do you want to stack one team? Do you want to spread it out? There are different strategies to be had when it comes to CFL Fantasy. Personally, I like to try to spread things out a little bit. Maybe stack two players from a team, but certainly not go full on board with one squad. So those are your options at running back. None of them absolute locks for me, unfortunately. I wish I could say, yes, this is the one, put him in your lineup. Absolutely going to be the best option, because I think we're at a point in the playoffs where it gets tougher and tougher to find that, because these teams are here for a reason. These players made it here for a reason, and they have shown what they've been capable of all season long. Stay tuned later this weekend. I will have your wide receiver and defense previews as well. Go back, check out the quarterback one that I released already, and do all the YouTube things. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you like, what you didn't. If you have any fantasy questions, put them in the comments section or tweet them at me at CooperTrooper42 on Twitter. That starts with a K, and a link to that's in the video description. And if you want to play CFL Fantasy alongside myself and other viewers, there's still 2 weeks left in the playoffs. You can still get in on the fun. There's a link in the description to the Canadian Football Fantasy Fix group over on the official CFL Fantasy site. You can play alongside myself and other viewers throughout the rest of the playoffs. As always, thanks for watching. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.